What's up, YouTube? This is Big Mike. Nick Young, right, the LeBron apologist. All right, he loves to cherry pick stats, especially old stats, to sort of make excuses for LeBron and to say, okay, well, Jordan did the same thing. Why are you criticizing LeBron? And I was looking at a clip on YouTube just now of him. Really, he was pissed off at Kobe Bryant recent comments where he said that LeBron has got to figure out a way to win championships. And then he goes on to talk about how from the time that the Lakers traded Shaq after the 2004 NBA Finals until when they acquired Pau Gasol, how the Lakers really didn't do anything from a success standpoint. But, that's true. I mean, I can't refute that personally. The Lakers were a mediocre team without a quality big man. Kobe was individually brilliant after 2005. He had the season where he averaged, 35.6 points per game, had the 62 points in three quarters, the 81-point game. Then, of course, 2006, 2007, I think he averaged 6 points per game? So individually he was brilliant, but his team wasn't that good. And that was always an excuse that I gave Bryant, is that, people talk about LeBron doesn't have teams. Kobe didn't have a team during that time period. I think the best player he played with was Lamar Odom. So, anytime you have a team where you have guys like Smush Parker on the team, then, you're not really playing with a lot of quality guys. But this video is for what he was saying when he was trying to bring down Michael Jordan. He was saying, well, people talk about Kobe going 7 for 13 and he has to shoot more. And that's people's criticism of LeBron. Did I say Kobe? I meant LeBron. When LeBron shot only 7 for 13 in Game 4 in the NBA Finals, and most people's criticism of LeBron is that he should have shot more. And then he goes on to say, well, look at Game 3 of the 1993 NBA Eastern Conference Finals between the Chicago Bulls and New York Knicks. Jordan only took 18 shots. And then he goes on to talk about in 1996 against Orlando, the same team that beat the Bulls and him a year prior, bounced the Bulls up the playoffs. Jordan only took 14 shots. What about that? Well, this is the thing, though. See, there's nothing wrong with not shooting the basketball when it becomes a detriment to your team. Okay? Which was always my argument with Kobe. I understand the gunner mentality. I truly understand that. And I wish that LeBron had that mentality more. But there's a problem when you have the gunner mentality when you go from shooting 3 for 12 and then you're now 3 of 25. Now you're hurting the team. See, Michael Jordan, who had a pure scorer's mentality in the game against the New York Knicks when he shot only 3 for 18, realized that his jumper was not wet that night. He was not hitting from the perimeter. So what Nick Wright does not disclose is that in that same game, Michael Jordan was 16 of 17 from the free throw line. Meaning that he said, fuck the jumper, I'm driving to the basket and getting to the foul line. I'm an 84% career free throw shooter at that time, maybe 85%. I'm going to take my chance at the line. And he had 17 attempts and made 16. So he scored 22 points, so he helped his team out by recognizing that offensively his perimeter shot was not working. So he drove to the basket. He also, in that same game, had 8 rebounds and 11 assists. So the game's greatest scorer looked for others to take up the slack, which LeBron does, but sometimes he does it too much to, once again, the detriment of his team. Teammates of Jordan in that game: Pippen, 29 points, 10 of 12 from the field. All right? B.J. Armstrong, 10 points. Johnny Paxson coming off the bench with 14 points. All right? Scott Williams, 5 points. Stacey King, who kind of had a disappointing run with the Chicago Bulls, with 7 points. So he got others involved. So you don't care about the fact that Jordan only took 14 shots. There are many regular season games where I saw Michael only took 10, 12, 15 shots. No one gives a fuck if your other teammates are taking up the slack. Okay? But when they're not, you got to shoot the ball more. LeBron doesn't have the luxury of a Scottie Pippen on his team or a Kyrie Irving on his team. That's the argument. And also, LeBron James was 7 of 13, over 50% shooting. So he wasn't struggling from the field. He chose not to shoot. And he passed and passed and passed to the detriment of his team. Hell, I even seen a comment from a subscriber on 78 Sports TV's page, and he was right, absolutely. If you look at the game, Rodney Hood led the team in shot attempts. Okay, Rodney Hood was going off offensively. LeBron took him out the equation because Rodney Hood's one of the I think he's pretty much the only guy on that team other than LeBron that created his own shot. LeBron took him out the equation by overpassing, handling the ball. Now all of a sudden LeBron was trying to pad his stats. And he does do that. LeBron's not, in my eyes, LeBron is not as unselfish as people make him out to be. He's not. He cares about his numbers. He knows his numbers. This is the same guy who can go through at least a quarter in his mind of how a game is played out. What happened in this possession? What happened in that possession? Okay? This is a guy who is displaying photographic memory. I wish I had his photographic memory. I have an excellent long-term memory, but I can't go play for play like that. My long-term memory is nearly photographic, but when it comes to, closer events, shit, I might forget what I had for breakfast this morning. For him to have that gift, is amazing. So LeBron knows his numbers. He's aware of his statistics. So I think personally, if you look at the fact that LeBron averaged the finals 34 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists, he knew he was close to in the rebounds and assist totals. He probably knew how many assists he needed to average 10. I think he was trying to put up double digits in rebounds and assists, and he failed to do so. Okay? That's just my theory. Also, this other reference that Nick Wright brought up, 1996 Eastern Conference Finals against the Orlando Magic. I think it was Game 3. Number one, the stakes were different. Okay? At least I'll give Nick Wright this one. In 1993, we were down 0-2 to the New York Knicks. We won that game, because I'm a Bulls fan. We won that game in Game 3 to go to 2-1. Ultimately won that series 4-2. But in 1996, when he mentioned, the team that beat the Bulls in 95, tried to show, Jordan didn't have the heart. Don't try that shit, Nick Wright. I wish I could debate you, Pelican. Wah, 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 the Penguin. Wah. I wish I could debate this fucking dude, man. Okay, he doesn't admit the fact that the Bulls were up 2-0 in that series. Okay, they were up 2-0 going into Orlando. They had the lead. Orlando was the one that was under pressure to win. Jordan, in that series, in my opinion, outside of that Game 4, really wasn't offensively clicking, if memory serves me correctly. I remember game one was a total team effort. Okay. It was a total team effort. If I remember correctly, in game one, Jordan shot 9 for 17. I used to know these things by heart. I remember he shot 9 for 17 in the first game. I don't remember what he shot in the second game, but in the third game, he was 5 for 14. Okay. And in the fourth game, he shot an excellent percentage. He scored 45 points. That was the closeout game. That was the difference between Michael Jordan and LeBron James, is that the closeout game, Michael wanted to put the nail in the coffin. He wanted to literally kill the Orlando Magic. And that's what he did, because Shaq ultimately left that team. But, yeah, Jordan shot 5 of 14 from the field, 17 points. But once again, deja vu, Scottie Pippen, 11 for 14 from the field, 27 points. Kerr was hitting from downtown. Ron Harper had 8 points. Luke Longley had 10 points, which, if you remember Luke Longley, that's a good game for him. Dennis Rodman chipped in with 9 points. I think that year, Rodman averaged like 5 points, so he overachieved with those 9 points to go along with his 16 rebounds. Once again, a total team effort. The Bulls won rather easily, if I remember correctly. And if I remember correctly, we held the Orlando Magic to something like 67 or 69 points. They were held to, at that time, a franchise playoff low in points. And we totally demoralized that team. All right? They totally gave up. Game 4, they did try. And a lot of his teammates, talking about Michael Jordan, they weren't hitting in this game. They weren't physically, hitting their shots. And that's when he went in scorer's mode and scored 45 points. And that sealed the sweep. That's the true story. All right? That's the difference between Michael Jordan and LeBron James. In that game 4, when they needed him to score, Jordan switched his mentality, went to the scoring mentality, and took over the ball game. Also, after that 3 for 18 performance that Nick Young always likes to bring up, after that 3 for 18 performance was game 4, Memorial Day 1993, guess what? Michael Jordan, this time his teammates were not there offensive like they were before. Michael Jordan scores 54 points, 18 and 30 from the field, 6 and 9 from downtown. Jordan was a killer. But that don't mean every game he shot the basketball 30 times. Great scorers know when to trust their teammates and when to go into that killer mode when it suits them, when it suits the team, actually, I should say. LeBron plays selfishly. At times, he likes to pad his numbers now. There were times when LeBron didn't do that earlier in his career. But now, I think with the Russell Westbrook thing, with the ego that LeBron has, Russell Westbrook averaging a triple-double for the regular season 2 years in a row. Now I've noticed LeBron James passing sometimes to the detriment of his team. He overpasses. Jeff Van Gundy mentioned that. Okay? So, that's my response to Nick Wright. All right? You cherry pick stats. And stop trying to make LeBron look better by tearing down others. LeBron is a great basketball player. Top 5 most likely. But he's not Michael Jordan. He never will be Michael Jordan. And if he does go to another team, like the Houston Rockets or Lakers, whatever, that further diminishes, in my opinion, any argument as to him being in the discussion with Michael Jordan. Because that would show that he can't do it alone without 2, 3, 4 All-Stars. Because people always talk about, well, LeBron, look what he does when he's playing with a bunch of bums. Well, if I'm not mistaken, I haven't seen LeBron James win a championship without Kyrie Irving, who may be the best one-on-one player in the league. I haven't seen him win a championship without Dwayne Wade. I haven't seen him win a championship without Chris Bosh. Okay. He needed Ray Allen on his team. Ray Allen saved him from going 2-7. And interestingly enough, I haven't seen him win a finals game without James Jones as a teammate. That's the truth. LeBron hasn't won a finals game. That's cherry picking. You know what I'm saying? Like, James Jones is not the reason why LeBron hasn't won a finals game without him. But it's an interesting statistic that LeBron has not won a finals game without James Jones as a teammate. But let's cut the shit, Nick Wright, man. All right? James is great, but he's not Michael Jordan.